skirt is like zip, zip, zip. Why do you look fabulous on the ground?
Oh, thank you. I'm saying I'm dead.
You look gorgeous, yes.
Look, when those doors opened, I had to fall.
I'm flattered because good fashion should slay you.
It did.
It should. Give me a hug, girl.
Oh, my God.
It's been so long since we got together.
I know.
I'm so happy to be back to shirt. I might unzip a little bit.
By the way, oh, yes.
Oh.
By the way, I got you, girl, as
Thanks,
Ross
girl.
would say. What gave you the idea to announce your birth on Saturday Night Live? That was the most joyous moment.
Well, I was trying to think of the perfect way to say, to share my good news. You know what I mean? And so then I got the thing that I was going to be on SNL. And I was like, this is the moment. And my girl, Amy Poehler, I think she announced her pregnancy on SNL, too, or was pregnant doing SNL. So maybe it's a Virgo thing.
That's right. She's in your book.
Yes,
too,
I love
podcast.
her. I love Amy.
Yeah. No, I remember watching that as someone who just loves you so much, and I was like, oh, that's a befitting birth announcement for a wildly, diversely talented woman. That's the stage for
Drew,
this.
you gotta stop, girl.
It's true.
Thank you.
You sing, you act, you write. Your book is so powerful. How did you come up with the title Master of Me? I mean, I'm reading it. I can see how you describe it.
Yeah.
But was there a light bulb moment?
I think I was trying to figure out what I could say that would exemplify what I wanted the book to be about, which is essentially, it's a form of service. Like I'm telling you, you're calling it a memoir, but it's really my anecdotes. I use my stories to share how I've learned to create my personal blueprint of how to sustain in the industry, but also how to surrender to life at this point in my life. And I thought, what would that, I felt empowered, and I was like, I don't want to say empowered. Well, what would I say if I'm telling someone how I feel? And I'll say, well, I'm the master. I'm the master of me. And then at that point, that kind of just took over. It all accumulated at one time.
I mean, I feel like you are going to start a saying with your title. I do, because we have got to be the master of ourselves.
A lot of what I talk about, too, in the book is jack of all trades, master of none, right? And when I was doing research, writing the book, I found out that quote came out around the Industrial Revolution, where people wanted you to focus on one industry and one thing. And that's great for the industry, but that ain't great for you. Aside from the personal aspect, it's the business aspect. I'm the business. I come first. And everything else I do is in service to that.
This is wisdom you have earned. I think you are ahead of schedule, but also you started ahead of schedule. So in a weird way, does it weirdly fit and land? Because I didn't know what the hell age I was growing up. I was like, please don't treat me like a child. I'm paying the bills and I work all day long.
It does do this kind of weird thing. And I think for us, obviously, it's so unique in terms of being child entertainers. And that's sensationalized in its own way. But I always say, and I say this in the book, a lot of us were parentalized children in a different kind of way.
Yes.
You're growing up in inner city, or you got to take care of your little brother, your little sister. Your mama got you're a latchkey kid, right? So a lot of people are dealing with that. And I feel like for me, that's what I had, which you probably had to do too, where I had to take myself out of it in order to get past the fact that I didn't have that innocence as a child.
I did have to take myself out of it.
Because we could stay there, girl, and be just like, oh my gosh, and I didn't get to it, and I didn't. It's like, okay, but guess what? It made me who I am today, and I like that person.
Yes. You know
what I mean? I do like her. You know what I mean?
And what I love about that is I feel the same way, and so many people do. And if we want to grow, how do we not poo-poo our prior life and existence that led up to it? Now, there'll be things in it that we want to pick apart.
There'll be things,
but the whole story is good.
And it doesn't serve you to look. It's about the power of reframing is so important.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because every situation's going to come up and something's going to go wrong. You can't just look at it from the point of view of this is what happened to me. Instead, empower yourself and say, well, how did I play a part? Accountability seems scary, but it frees you.
Yes.
It frees you. It reminds you that you're in control of your life. I had an amazing therapist tell me one time that, because I was like, why am I going through this? And she's like, well, on a spiritual level, girl, I was in there crying. She was like, on a spiritual level, you wanted to go through this. You went through this because that's the only way that we can get to our authenticity. A lot of times we think love is the highest vibration we can activate on in life, but it's actually authenticity. And we only know what is authentic to us through experience.
Yes.
And so the truth is, when you engage with something, however challenging or non-challenging it might be, you're doing it to service you. And when you think of it that way, it allows you to be more objective and to say to yourself head on, well, what was I trying to learn? What was I trying to give myself in my human experience to go through this, to allow this, whatever it is?
And sometimes people have to go through repetitive patterns for it to be obvious, and still you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And it's like, well, we all see it. When are you going to see it? But I really struggled in relationships because my life that didn't seem big, special, or important to me was difficult sometimes for other people to digest, and that would cause some problems sometimes.
Yes.
And God, that was so hard when you make yourself smaller to make someone else feel bigger because you don't want them to be uncomfortable with the life you've chosen for yourself. That's the universal thing I'm trying to get to. How the hell did you deal with that?
I think boundaries and being really, really honest. I think also, like, again, maybe this is a child actor thing, maybe it's not. There's a lot of habits of people pleasing. And there's a lot of habits of like, and this I think is universal where it's like, when you love people, it's hard to tell them no. And it's hard to tell them when they're showing bad behavior because you love them and you know they're a good person, but they're not showing up as a good person. But the really, really beautiful thing when you make boundaries with the people that you love is you give them a chance to show up for you instead of you always showing up for them. And so I learned a really hard lesson in the last few years of leaving people behind. And, you know, sometimes they stayed behind. And then other times they showed up. And it taught me the importance of what boundaries do for you and how that we keep retelling ourselves the same story because we're not giving anybody a chance. You know what I mean? And we're not giving ourselves a chance. We're not honoring ourselves. So how can somebody else honor you if you're not honoring you? Hey, Bookie Doo!
Yeah, Douglas. Come up here. Come on.
Oh, I'm loving the turkey look.
He loves it. He feels so harnessed.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like a Thanksgiving thunder vest.
I really love how I just feel like I'm in your living room here.
You know...
We're just a bunch of people staring.
It's funny because I always wanted this room to be in the round because I was taught when I was 13 that you cannot sweep things under the rug. Mm-hmm. And the more transparent and self-aware that you are, the better it is for everybody. Everybody can start to do that with each other.
That's right. You're talking about community.
Yes.
And that is so important. That's why we all feel so alienated a lot of times. When we don't tell our truth, it alienates us more. I remember there's this, I'm going to butcher the poetry, but it's Shel Silverstein.
Yeah.
And there's like a picture of two people behind really big masks. And it was like, she's blue, and so was, she was blue, he was blue too, but when they met, they walked right by and they never knew. And pretty much what it was saying was like they were both the same kind of person, but because they never took their masks off and never showed who they really were, they felt alienated and alone, and their person was right next to them. And so that's why I feel the same way that you do, is that I tell things, I share stuff as much as I can that also I'm comfortable with, because I know somebody else is going through the same thing. Somewhere, somebody want to know they're heard, and that's what artistry did for me. You know, the first thing I say in the book is I never really wanted to be a performer, but I knew I wanted to make people feel things. That's what I meant. As a performer, when I'm on stage or when I'm doing a character in a movie or a TV show, or I know that I'm showcasing something that somebody's going to connect to, that somebody is going to feel, because that's what films and TV shows did for me. When they represented me and what I was going through, I felt heard, I felt seen, and I felt so much less alone.
And, you know, it's interesting because I feel like both of our parents heard how passionate we were about what it is we wanted to do and then actually supported that journey.
Yes.
But then they end up getting swept up in it too. Yep. And then all of a sudden you're in this family industry. You're supposed to have the parent-child dynamic, yep, but you're working, your parents are there, you're being treated like an adult.
That's right.
Because you have adult responsibilities.
That's right.
But you're still a child. And so everything is wild. I don't feel like I had relationships that were...
I think it's traumatizing. And I think that we have so much around that word that it's like, oh my gosh, what is it? You know, it always looks like this, you know, specific thing. But it's just when it's overwhelming. Something happens that overwhelms you and you don't know how to process it. That's when something is traumatizing, whether it's to the body or whether it's to the mind or the heart. And when you become a celebrity child, when you make more money than your parents, it's traumatizing. When other people tell you that your parents are worthless because you're making all the money, it's traumatizing. Growing up in a small town where my parents made $40,000 a year, and then I'm making that a movie, and people are judging my parents, but saying I'm the person, I'm the one, and these people gave up everything for me to be who I am today. It has taken so much for me to get to the point of saying, you get to tell my story, and you don't get to tell their story. The truth is, my family drove 4 days and 3 nights to help their daughter pursue her dream, and she became a generational talent, and she gave generational wealth to her family. I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. That's the story. And so, that's the story. You get to tell your own story. And for so long, people try to erase you, erase what it means to be you, what you went through, what it was for, your intentionality behind it. And that's why the cover of my book is this way. I'm not a damn puppet. I'm the master. I know what's going on. I'm not an innocent bystander. I'm a part of this. I'm engaged with this,
What I didn't think was possible when I was 13 years old is that I would ever be able to change my narrative. And you think that you will be pigeonholed by other people's views, and they literally start to become your own. And then you're not fighting against your own demons, you're fighting against phantoms. And you just go, wait a minute, I am the pen, I am the human pen, and I will rewrite my story if it is not what I want it to be, but I will also be the author of my story.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
No one else will write it, because if you're the author and the narrator and the writer of your life, you've got to work double time to the thing in your head.
Yes.
Because that's fighting the strength you have. By the way, have you ever hearing you speak is like going to a sermon. You should be like...
My father's actually a deacon. That's hilarious.
Oh my God, are you serious? I'm sitting here and I'm like, you need to just keep talking to everyone around the world, because you are talking about such universal themes. And I will say, what I humbly learned was that I wished I was enough for myself. I wished I had figured things out sooner. But boy, is it my kids that changed everything. And that's what it seems like for you and Leo.
My son.
Like, that's where the healing begins.
Yes, that's the realest, truest love that I could ever know. It's the realest, truest love that I could ever know. And there's so much that's unspoken that is felt between us. My son, literally, guys, I dedicated the book to him because the person that I became, I never knew I could be.
Well, and you wonder, when will I get the chance to truly be also in a position of creating a path rather than being on the one that I've been on all these years, and continue to foster and cultivate the garden. But all of a sudden, there's a door that opens. I've never known anything like it. I have never known anything that's as important.
It's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
And what a great thing, because I'm so tired of me.
Yes!
Girl, I'm so tired of me. So it's like, it's about you. It's about you. It's a life, the perspective and the vantage point in which you look from it becomes so much more clear.
They are my why. And what they've done is, because in honor of them, I have become a person I never knew I would get to, that I always wished to be, that I strived to be. And they have inspired me to become someone in honor of them, but I'm me.
I think
like,
that's
it's
so
happening.
Great. It's so true what you said. It's me, but in honor of them, it's almost like this extra push. It's so interesting what you just said, because I feel like that's exactly the vibe.
That's what your book says. And that is what's so beautiful, is that love can come into your life in any form and inspire you to get to places in your own personal world and space.
To be your authentic self.
That's the dream you've always had, and it's been the Frodo brass ring.
Okay.
And then you catch it and you're like, oh my God, this feels awesome.
Girl, you feel like you got all the 5, what is the rings that the man has on? The ring, the marble man. I forgot his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
You are
Drew,
an amazing singer, an amazing comedian, an amazing actress, and an incredible author.
Drew.
You worked hard. You earned this. And it's just incredible. Master of Me is out everywhere now.
Thank you guys so much.
And it is just, I've been so looking forward to this conversation.
I just love you so much.
I love you too. We'll be
That's
right
right.
back. Give me hugs!